Hello, everyone, and welcome to our special week-long coverage of the 106th Indianapolis 500, night one of four this week of your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Adam Lemerise, and with me is Kobe Lambeth from the Put In Finish, and joining us just after midnight in the UK is Joshua Burch. A special shout out to our Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deshelle, and Robin. Thank you for investing in Grid Network. Link to our Patreon in the video description below. And please feel free to comment in the chat room below and ask any question. Tonight we'll recap the opening day of the Indy 500. So let's get started. Kobe, what happened in the Hoosier state of Indiana?
Yeah, day one of practice for the 106 running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. Well, we had all 33 cars take the track today, only 33 starters this year, so no bump day drama and restless nights trying to make your car quick enough to make the fill in last weekend's GMR Grand Prix on the IMS road course. We had 27 drivers compete, but only 26 drivers who compete in that event will race in this year's Indy 500. Tatiana Calderon is only running the road and street courses, and AJ Foyt races number 11 Chevrolet, so no oval races on her schedule, at least for this year. That means JR Hildebrand gets her car for the rest of May. And taking a look at the entry list, other drivers who didn't run the road course race but doing the Indy 500 only, Tony Kanaan, Santino Ferrucci, Sage Karam, those two dry and run ball cars look really good in the morning section. Stephen Wilson, Ed Carpenter, and Marco Andretti doing his now annual Indy 500 one-off. A field that includes 8 past Indy 500 winners, 7 drivers making their very first Indy 500 start, and 17 Hondas versus 16 Chevrolets. Some of the big storylines heading into the month of May, obviously at the center of it all, can the drive for 5 be achieved by Elio Castroneves? Will Colton Herta be able to do what Will Power and Simon Pagenaud did in the years 2018 and 2019, win the GMR Grand Prix on the IMS road course and the Indy 500 to sweep the month of May at the Brickyard? Plus, we have 7-time NASCAR Cup Series champion Jimmie Johnson making his Indy 500 debut. Johnson turned a lot of heads during his very first IndyCar oval race of the season at Texas Motor Speedway. He qualified 18th and drove spectacularly through the field all the way up to 6th place, even battling his more experienced and champion teammate from Chip Ganassi Racing, Scott Dixon, for a top 5 spot in the closing laps. We know all about Jimmy's struggles on the road and street courses since he decided to switch from NASCAR to IndyCar, but he definitely looked more comfortable on the Texas Oval and the IMS Oval test they had last month. Plus, the number 48 Carvana Honda looked very strong at the end of practice today. And starting with you, Adam, whether it's any of the storylines or something I didn't mention, what storyline are you going to be following the most leading up to the race?
Can Helio Castroneves become the only driver to win 5 IndyCar Indy 500 races? He always looks strong here when it comes to the month of May. And if there's less than 50 laps to go and he's in contention, he will be battling his heart out to try to become the only driver to win 5 Indy 500s. Another storyline is Jimmie Johnson. Wow, he was 3rd in the second practice this afternoon at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Could he be a dark horse to win the Indy 500? He won NASCAR's longest race this season, the Coca-Cola 600, in the past. So if he were to win here, that would get a lot of heads turning. And overall, we're just 12 days away. There's a lot more storylines to come as we recap practice each and every day this week right here on Grid Network.
I think you've both covered it brilliantly there with building up the hype for this week as well of practice and qualifying. And next week we're going to the racing as well. A couple of stories I'm going to be keeping my eye on as well. Chip Ganassi Racing, they've come out the blocks very strong as well. Scott Dixon was quick until Sato jumped him as well at the end of the session there. But one thing also you've got to remember is that all of the Chip Ganassi cars right at the beginning of practice 1 on the install laps their brakes just started to catch fire as well. So there was a lot of problems there as well with keeping them cooling down as well. So started off as a bad day, ended off as a great day. I think you're all right. All eyes are definitely on Helio Castroneves. Can he be the first ever driver to win 5 Indy 500s as well? I know I'm personally cheering on him. I want to see that happen. But it's too much of an unpredictable game to make certain bets. Jimmy Johnson, this is more like his playground as well. I was talking with Ben just before this show as well, and he said as well, in his NASCAR days, he only ever had 1 road course victory, and he has loads of oval victories as well. He suits ovals more. It's definitely seeming like he's crossing the paths of that in IndyCar. Stunning to see him inside the top 10 here. So I'm going to keep an eye on him throughout the week. And I think everybody is going to be keeping an eye on as well exactly what is Colton Herta going to do. He won last week on Saturday as well in the GMR Grand Prix. And we were discussing at the time, I could only remember Pagano of Power doing it. I found out today as well, because on the Peacock stream as well, that it was, of course, Scott Dixon who did it just a couple of years ago now as well. So 3 of them have done it, won the GMR road course, then gone on to win the Indy 500. Can Colton Herta become the 4th to do so? Or will Helio Castroneves be the 5th to win the oval? It's so much to look forward to. I'm so excited about this week. And it's practice. It's nothing else but practice. And I'm so excited. It's brilliant.
Yes, Josh, totally agree with you. There's a lot of excitement in the air leading into the month of May and this particular week. Now, Indy 500 practice is officially started, and there's a lot of storylines to really look forward to as we've been talking about. Helio Castroneves, imagine if he gets that 5th Indy 500 win. We saw how excited he was last year when he got number 4. If he gets number 5, it's going to be an even bigger party than it was last year. And Jimmy Johnson, Chip Ganassi Racing, they look really, really strong today. And it's going to be interesting to see if they can continue that form for the rest of the month, because it doesn't matter what you did on the first day of practice in the grand scheme of things. The only thing that matters is, are you going to be in the right place at the right time? Those final 50 laps that matter the most in the Indianapolis 500, and with 10.5 to go, make sure you're in the right position, in the right place, to make sure that you can secure the win and have your face appear on that special Borg Warner trophy. And this morning at 9 a.m. Eastern time, the first official practice session got underway with 32 drivers on track. Everyone who ran the 2-day test here in April was approved for full track time, except one driver who had to do the veterans refresher session. We'll discuss that driver in a little bit. But Scott Dixon topped the practice charts at 227.119 miles per hour, followed by his teammate Marcus Ericsson, Sage Karam, Connor Daly, and Marco Andretti rounding out the top 5. And as has been said, a really strong start for Chip Ganassi Racing and Scott Dixon, who currently sits 5th in the point standings. Surprisingly, Dixon hasn't won a race since Texas last year, but he's still running very consistently and salvaged some good finishes after not qualifying well in the last 3 races. But remember, Dixon started on the pole in last year's Indy 500. Given Dixon's recent struggles in qualifying, do you see him turning that around this weekend?
I do, actually, because Indy 500, a completely different kettle of fish when it comes to qualifying as well. And yes, everyone's going to say it's the same qualifying as an oval race as well, but there's more pressure added on. There's more focus for the drivers as well, because you're constantly over 200 miles an hour. Over 220 miles an hour is your average goal as well. So it's a lot of risk for 4 laps in a row. Drivers do it multiple times as well. It's bizarre how many goes they get. You can either go in the lane that you want to run again and abandon your fast lap, or you're going to stay in the safe lane for a little bit of time. Mainly as well, Dixon, in the past, he's qualified well here as well. And he's obviously gone on to win the race before. Ben says, I think Jimmy certainly has a lot of attention at this point. He might have a legitimate shot at it as well. You were just talking about that as well. And I did say, Ben, if you were watching earlier on in the broadcast, I said about how you said Jimmy is looking very, very strong on the oval as well. So I think he could have a shot, Jimmy Johnson. Maybe front row start and then claw his way back up. But it's all about the last 20 laps at the 500. Back to Dixon, though. Definitely going to have a stronger qualifying. I think he's going to be in the fast 9. I don't see him starting on the front row of the grid, judging by where he's been this weekend. But in the race, I think we could see him leading a couple of laps as well. But it's still way too early to tell. But day one is bang on the money for Chip Ganassi Racing, despite a smoky start with brake glue failure.
The last time Scott Dixon won was last year at Texas. You don't think he's chomping at the bit to get back to victory lane? And how cool would it be to see him have his name again on the World Trophy? He was fast in practice, but this is only day one. We, like you said, Josh, we still got a long way to go, and qualifying happens this weekend. So if Scott Dixon can continue this momentum, he could start. I see him starting inside the top 10 for the Indy 500. I think that's one driver you got to look at as someone who could win the greatest spectacle in racing.
Yes, and Scott Dixon is one driver you can never, ever, ever count out of anything, because even on his poorest weekend, he still manages to finish in the top 10 somehow. And they were actually alluding to that on the Peacock broadcast today when they were talking about how even when Scott Dixon, is not having his best day, his worst finish is like going to be 7th or 8th place, and we haven't seen Scott Dixon dominate races like he used to, and with the since that Texas win, we haven't seen that same type of form from Scott Dixon, but he's still extremely consistent, and he's always and he's definitely going to be one of the contenders for the Indy 500 this year, I believe, if Chip Ganassi Racing can keep up their current form. And the year Scott Dixon won the Indy 500 in 2008, which seems like in a really, really long time ago. He was in his late 20s. How old is Scott Dixon now? He's in his early 40s. And I think versus then and now, I think it would mean a lot more to Scott Dixon now in his early 40s than it did when right before he was 30 years old, because Scott Dixon's not getting any younger out there, and he's a lot closer to the end of his career than the beginning, obviously. So I think Dixon really wants to get an Indy 500, well, it's another Indy 500 victory soon, because we don't know when the end of his career is going to be. And with how good the Chip Ganassi racing cars look today, it's a prime opportunity to get his second Indy 500 victory, because we don't know how much longer Scott Dixon's going to be able to stay in IndyCar, how long he's going to be competitive, but he certainly hasn't lost a fight in his heart at all to the competitive spirit in the 6-time IndyCar Series champion. And his teammate Marcus Ericsson is looking pretty strong too, currently 8th in the points. He'd probably be a few spots higher if it wasn't for the crash at Long Beach. Ericsson really came into his own last year as an IndyCar driver, picking up 2 wins at Detroit and Nashville. This year, 3rd place on the Oval at Texas, and 4th last weekend on the IMS road course in those mixed conditions. Now Ericsson's having a strong start to the week of practice, leading up to qualified. Could Marcus Ericsson be a dark horse contender in the Indy 500?
Yeah, he sure can. I wouldn't count him out for I wouldn't count him out for a top 10 starting spot. And if he continues this, you want a wild card pick? I would maybe put money on Marcus Ericsson. You mentioned Kobe. He has 2 wins last year, so he knows how to get it done. He wants to join. He wants to join that list of incredible men who have won the Indy 500. And if he's in the right place at the right time, I wouldn't count him out to kiss the bricks in just 12 days.
Absolutely agree with you. I think we've got a very interesting situation with Marcus Ericsson today. I saw him on the track in the practice sessions. He was getting involved with all the pack racing as well, getting to know what the toe is like when following other cars as well. He was drafting as well. He was getting in free air. He really stuck himself in to those practice sessions as well. And so you should, because if we've got rain coming tomorrow as well, with the threat of the clouds coming in as well, it's best to get as much data as you can on the first day, and then it's sort of like damage limitation for the rest. But I think Marcus Ericsson is suited incredibly well to this 500 track as well. And I've just got this strange feeling that we could see him on the podium in the top 3. That's could be a shout. I know I do agree with you as well, Adam, actually, that we could see him in the top 10 qualifying positions. But I'd agree. Outside shot, wild card at this stage. I would put money on Marcus Ericsson possibly taking the win. Thinking about it, as I keep saying, as I'm sure we all know by now, the Indy 500 it's not really 500 miles, is it? It's all about those last 20 laps as to have you got enough fuel? Have you got enough tires? Can you make it to the end without a splash and dash? And of course, will we stay green in the last 20 laps? We've seen numerous times red flags getting caught with like 10 laps to go. And then we have left a little dash in a sprint race as well. So it's one of the greatest spectacles in racing, to coin a phrase. And I think we're going to see something truly special this year. And it's not just going to be like we're going to see dash to the finishes. We're going to see close racing, because every single one of these 33 cars are going to be fantastic and are going to be so cool to watch on Sunday, May 29th.
Yes, it's always really cool to watch the Indianapolis 500 every year. The greatest spectacle in racing. I agree with both of you said about Marcus Ericsson. Definitely think he can be a dark horse contender and potentially win the Indianapolis 500. Really, any of the Chip Ganassi racing cars could make someone a lot of money in Las Vegas. Pick any one of the 5 that they have running in the Indy 500, because Chip Ganassi definitely brought some really fast Hondas all across the board, and we know Chip Ganassi Racing is always gonna bring fast cars to the racetrack. And Josh, you're talking about seeing something special this year. I remember the year we saw Alexander Rossi win the Indianapolis 500. On occasion, might see a fuel mileage racing, and if this year's Indy 500 is going to come down to fuel mileage, that's really going to shake things up, and we might end up with a true surprise winner. Let's say maybe a Callum Ilott, a Christian Lundgaard, two young European drivers who are really turning heads this year in the NTT IndyCar Series. How special would it be to see a rookie go to victory lane in the Indy 500 this year? And from 1 p.m. Eastern time to 3 p.m. Eastern time, we had one driver on track for the Veterans Refresher Test, the 33rd and final entry. Stephen Wilson's back at the Speedway for his 4th Indy 500 start. 2 organizations came together to put together the number 25 Chevrolet, a joint effort filled in the car by Cusick Motorsports and Elton Julian's Dragon Speed operation. It took multiple IndyCar teams to make this entry possible at the very last minute. According to Marsh report from Racer.com, the team received equipment from Andretti Autosport, Hunka's Hollinger Racing, and Team Penske. But it was AJ Ford Racing who provided the Cusick Dragon Speed entry with the chassis, which is actually Tatiana Calderon's road course car from the GMR Grand Prix. The Ford crew put in extra hours of work to convert the car from road course to a speedway car. Most teams like to build a specialized car for oval racing and IndyCar to unlock more speed, but a road course car converted to race on ovals, that it doesn't always have the special touches that truly make the car a real contender on race day. So Wilson might be at a slight disadvantage there. Still an awesome job by everyone involved to get him on track this afternoon to complete his refresher session. With only 33 drivers entering and no worries about bump day this year, how easier will it be for Wilson's team to slowly build up their speed instead of scrambling and being concerned they may not be fast enough to make the show?
Oh, fantastic. They can take it a little bit easier than they would have had to as well. I'm trying to think McLaren and Fernando Alonso a couple of years ago as well. They crashed their oval car, had to convert another one. The backup one, it didn't work. His steering wheel wasn't right as well. And they got humiliated down there as well and got bumped. Now, I am sad we don't have a bump day because that was always quite exciting before we got the final qualifying session. But still, I'll take it. We're happy. We've still got the last word qualifiers, so that's okay. Going forward as well, it was nice to see them when they actually had the 2 hours to themselves. I think that really helped a lot. 2 hours, nobody else out on the track. You could do your own thing, get up to speed as well. For those of you who don't know about the refreshers as well, because he has raced at the Indy 500 before, he only had to do 2 sets of 15 laps. Now, the first set of those 15 laps had to be run where you had to do 15 laps at over 210 miles an hour and no quicker than 215 miles an hour. And that's so that you can measure, can you race in pack racing? Can you safely lift in corners, etc.? The next set of 15 laps is full throttle. You must always average above 215 miles an hour plus. And he was comfortably doing that as well. We saw 220s, 221s, even a 226 across the board as well towards the end of his run. So definitely Stefan Wilson was getting back up to speed as well. And how impressive is it? As you said, it's a road car, Tatiana's road car that was on a wet setup for Saturday is now on a dry oval setup on the Tuesday. That is an incredible turnaround in 48 hours. So top dog there from all the teams there. I'm hopefully as well that we're going to see him in the fight. I mean, was it last year or the year before where he was leading the race and then had to come in for fuel with 2 laps to go? And we were all like, no, it could have been the perfect story. The brother doing what the other brother couldn't do as well. And it's just, it's just so close, so close. But they're going to have an easier time of it as well. They're going to have a fun time of it as well because no worries of bumping. They can concentrate on getting that car through qualifying, and they can concentrate on the final practice on Monday on getting the cars speeding up. And then, of course, we get carb day, which is the flat out run for 2 hours. What was it? No, 3 hours, 11 to 1 as well. And then they can all have a joke and have a pit stop battle. I mean, the drivers see it as a joke. The teams see it as a personal honor fight. So there's always something for someone at the Brickyard, and it's a party atmosphere as well.
Yeah, it's a party atmosphere, like you said, Josh. And, I think this is huge for Stefan Wilson's team. No bump. They don't have to worry about getting bumped out of the Indy 500. They can take it one practice at a time. 2018. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate that. They can take it one practice at a time. They can go they've done one practice today. Now they can, there's more practices this week, so they can take one practice at a time. And then once we get to qualify on Saturday, they can go all out to see where they'll start in the Indy 500.
Yeah, definitely quite a sigh of relief for Stefan Wilson this year that he doesn't have to worry about bump day, trying to make it into the field, or will I go home and be very disappointed. So as Josh was saying, they can just come up through their program slowly. It seems like they checked all the boxes today, that everything works, that the car is fast enough to stay in the slipstream, and it looks like if they keep unlocking more speed in that car, they'll certainly be in the fight for maybe top 25 finish, top 20, or even better. As you know, this Indy 500 is very unpredictable, and there's like maybe 20 to 23ish cars that can probably realistically win this race. So if Stefan Wilson is in the right place at the right time, stays out of trouble, maybe we can bring home a decent finish for the Kusit Motorsports Dragon Speed operation. And during the practice broadcast on Peacock Streaming, NBC Sports interviewed 2014 Indy 500 champion Ryan Hunter-Reay, who's at the Speedway this month, but in a different role. After losing his ride at Andretti Autosport to Roman Grosjean, RHR is hanging out with Junko's Hollinger race and serving as a mentor to rookie Callum Ilott. Hunter-Reay is on the sidelines this year from IndyCar competition, but he said he hopes that he'll be back in the Indy 500 in 2023. Ilott mentioned the difficulty of coming to Indy as a rookie, limited oval experience, and being a single car team and having no data to share from a teammate. For a young driver like Callum Ilott, who's shown a lot of potential in recent IndyCar races, how crucial is it for him to have a veteran like RHR in his ear?
It is huge. Because you mentioned Kobe, Ryan Hunter-Reay has won the Indy 500, so he knows what it's like, to do all these practices and qualifying, carb day, and everything else. So Callum Ilott has a real veteran in his ear, and I think that's going to help him out a whole lot as we get the rest of all these practices, and then we have qualifying. Ryan Hunter-Reay will probably tell Kyle Ilott where the fastest points on the track are. He'll probably give him some pointers about qualifying for the Indy 500. So to have a former Indy 500 champion in your ear all week, that is huge for this rookie you can call him Ilott.
It's like having Tom Brady teach you how to play football, isn't it? It's brilliant. It's literally, you've got one of the greatest of all times right in your ear throughout the entire time. And I know, I'm sure we all do, Ryan Hunter-Reay, he's maybe sitting on the sidelines, but he is going to be in there in the car with Ilott. He's going to feel everything. He's going to feel the adrenaline. He's going to feel the speed and everything. He'll hear the team radio, and he'll be visualizing the laps as well. He'll be looking on the onboard cameras on the pit wall as well, and he'll be studying every single corner. He's going to be fantastic. Maybe he should become a spotter as well, to be fair. Let's not keep it on the pit wall. Let's get him right up there in the spotter, because Ryan telling you where to go, I'll trust him. Absolutely. Although maybe not a Pocono. But still, I would trust Ryan Hunter-Reay to tell me where to put a car and how to drive as well. So definitely it's going to be great for Callum Ilott as well. Maybe an outside shot as well, as you said earlier on, Kobe, as well, with fuel mileage. If he does into that type of race, Hunter-Reay's got experience with that as well in other oval races. So it could be good. It could be good. And definitely as well, that Ryan Hunter-Reay, I miss him. I miss calling that name at the Indy 500. I want him back next year, definitely.
Yeah, we'll see if Ryan Hunter-Reay is going to be able to get a seat in next year's Indy 500. But since we have over 365 days until the next Indy 500, luckily right now it's very, very early, so he can start working on a deal right now to get in a competitive car. Ryan Hunter-Reay said earlier this year that he's had some opportunities to drive in this year's Indy 500 and potentially other IndyCar races as well, but he turned it down because he wants to be in equipment, that's competitive, where he can go out there and fight instead of just dragging up the rear. And for an Indy 500 champion like Ryan Hunter-Reay, he definitely knows his worth, and he still wants to be competitive rather than just riding around holding on until the wheels fall off. And I really love your analogy, Joshua. This is like having Tom Brady teach you how to play football. I'd absolutely trust Ryan Hunter-Reay in my ear if I'm a rookie. Like Callum Ilott, he knows how to get around the speedway. He understands these cars. He understands what's going on. And I think Callum Ilott's going to be in a really good place having Ryan Hunter-Reay serving as his mentor as Ilott navigates his very first Indy 500. In the late afternoon, practice session ended at 6 p.m. Eastern Time with Takuma Sato putting down a last-minute flyer, shooting up to the top of the boards at 228.939 miles per hour. I swear the first day practice speeds just get faster and faster every single year, and still Ganassi Racing looked the strongest all day overall. All 5 Ganassi Hondas in the top 10, 4 of their cars in the top 6. Scott Dixon was second fastest, Jimmy Johnson third, Marcus Ericsson fourth, Alex Palou in sixth, and Tony Kanaan in ninth. And we talked about with rain in the forecast tomorrow, the teams are unsure how much track time they'll get, if any at all. In the event of rain on Wednesday, there's still going to be a full day of running on Thursday and Fast Friday, when teams will get the extra boost in horsepower for qualifying. Plus, the 2-day test session last month was very helpful for data collecting purposes, but losing a day of track time might really only hurt Stephen Wilson, since they were the last minute addition to the grid and just got things up and running today. However, a team that may need Wednesday practice is Andretti Autosport. Marco Andretti looked strong in both sessions. Devlin DeFrancesco was 11th in the late afternoon section, while Colton Herta, Alexander Rossi, and Roman Grosjean failed to crack the top 20 on the speed charts in both sessions. Are you surprised we didn't see more speed from Andretti Autosport across the board on day one? It's obviously very early, and practice speeds can be quite deceiving.
They can indeed, and I'm trying desperately not to believe them as well. But I must say, I was a bit alarmed on both of the practice sessions we've had today that the Andrettis were so far down as well, and they couldn't seem to get up to speed. They were seeming to be concentrating a lot on pack running as well, so they never got clean air speed. But surely, as we all know, inside a pack race, you're going to get faster times because there's less air hitting the car. You've got a clean line of a tow. You should be quicker. So I don't know if they had the fuel mix down, if they were practicing low fuel runs as well. High fuel loads, I should say. It's a bizarre situation, and I won't be panicking unless we saw it again tomorrow. If we see it tomorrow, then we'll panic. But it's great time for Marco Andretti, though, to be back in straight on the oval course, and he looks absolutely rapid again. So could this be the year that an Andretti finally wins again for the first time since the 60s? Answer on the postcard, please, because I don't think so.
No, I don't think Marco Andretti wins this year at all either. one of these years, Andretti will win again. I mean, like you said, Josh, last time Andretti won was 1969 with Mar Andretti. I'm surprised no Andretti has won since. Michael Andretti has come close a couple of times. Mark Andretti came close a couple of years ago. But it's only day one of practice. I think Andretti Autosport needs to find speed. And like you're mentioning also, Josh, if they're way down tomorrow, practice number 2, Andretti Autosport is going to panic because they could have all their cars starting from the middle of the field to the back of the field. And we all know that most of them, you could see a mistake in the middle of the field or back of the field, especially during the start, like we've seen in previous years. So Andretti Autosport needs to pick up the pace. Otherwise, they may not even start in the top 15 for the Indy 500.
Should I get ready to call caution? Turn 2. It's an Andretti.
You may have to. You may have to, Josh.
I'll get it scripted on the back of the commentary box wall as well. Sorry, Michael. Please let me in your F1 garage.
well, I was really surprised that Colton Hurd, Alexander Rossi, and Roman Grosjean did not crack the top 20 in practice. I do think it's still very, very early on. Right now, as you guys been saying, I wouldn't panic right now. But tomorrow's another day. See how much practice we get. But if it's a washout, and we only have Thursday practice coming up, and then Andretti goes out, and those 3 cars still aren't any faster, and then we get the Fast Friday, things still aren't working well, then I guess Andretti has to say, oh boy, where in the world did we go wrong? Because qualifying for the Indy 500, I think it's become extremely important in recent years. And one of the drivers actually said that during the Peacock broadcast. Can't exactly think who it was right now off of the top of my head, but they were talking about had a years before in the previous Aero kit that it was a lot easier to come from the back. Well, actually, I think I know who it is. I think it was Sage Carib who said that where it was a lot easier to like start deep in the field and work your way up. When we had the Aero kit where it seemed like you were seeing slingshots all over the place, and then we switched to the current Aero kit, and it's that you can still pass with it. Last year's Indianapolis 500 produced an amazing show, but still a lot harder to pass. And I think a lot of it also depends on the weather conditions. If it's going to be a cooler race, probably expect a race a lot more like last year. But if it's going to be warmer, maybe it'll be something close to what we saw in 2020 when the Indy 500 race like closed doors. And if it's going to be super hot, then qualify is going to be extremely important, because it's going to get really harder to pass, and your real only chances to make a move through the field is going to be on restarts for incidents or debris, whichever one's going to come first. And if I'm at Andretti Autosport right now, I'm definitely going to be reviewing all of the data tonight and seeing what we can try different tomorrow, because this is a team, whenever you come to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, you expect Andretti Autosport to be competitive at all times. And with that said, we're going to wrap it up for another edition of Grid Tonight, our special week-long Indy 500 practice coverage. And please be sure to like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show and consider joining our Patreon and invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below, and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. A big thank you to Edward Hunter from formerly E-Zone, Amber, and Zachary for buying us one. We really appreciate it. And any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Visit public.com, also known as the stock market social media home. A link below and referral code GRIDnet gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. And as I said, we'll be on the air each night this week at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Our regular Grid Tonight episode is going to be on Wednesday. Tomorrow night, it'll be a mix of Indy 500 coverage during the first half of the show, and then the second half of the show is going to be our regular news program. Yes, and then we'll have more Grid Tonight on Thursday and Friday with Indy 500 coverage only. Thursday, we're also going to have Women in Motorsports in the morning. Joe and Daniel are going to be previewing the W Series race in Barcelona, Spain. And then Saturday, Grid Live pre-race at noon. And Sunday, Grid live wrap up. So we're going to be extremely busy here all across the board at Grid Network for the rest of this week. For Adam Lemerise and Joshua Burch, I'm Cubby Lambeth from the Podium Finish. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow night.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on public.com.